For decades, Simon Cowell was television's most intimidating voice, the man whose sharp critiques could make or break a career. On American Idol and The X Factor, he built a reputation for blunt honesty and perfectionism, rarely letting emotion show. But behind that commanding exterior lies a very different story, one of heartbreak, redemption, and profound transformation. From scandal and friendship lost to near-death experiences and grief, Simon's life has unfolded like the kind of drama he once judged from afar. What follows is the human story of a man who built an empire on talent and toughness, only to discover that real strength comes from love and vulnerability. A scandal that shook his world. For most of his career, Simon insisted he wasn't built for family life. He loved his work, his independence, and the freedom to live on his own terms. Marriage and fatherhood, he once said, simply weren't part of the plan. But in 2013, the world learned that plan had changed in a way no one expected. News broke that Simon was expecting a child with Lauren Silverman, the wife of his longtime friend Andrew Silverman. The revelation stunned both the public and Simon's inner circle. He had fallen in love with someone already deeply tied to his world, and the relationship instantly became tabloid fuel. The story of betrayal dominated headlines, turning one of television's most controlled figures into the center of chaos. But even as criticism swirled, Simon didn't hide. He publicly acknowledged the relationship and, as the pregnancy progressed, began to show a new side of himself. For the first time, the man who had built his brand on toughness seemed unguarded, talking openly about excitement, nervousness, and the strange wonder of becoming a father. The birth that changed everything. When Simon's son, Eric Cowell, was born, everything shifted. He flew across the Atlantic from a talent show audition to be by Lauren's side in New York. The moment he held his newborn son, he said later, was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It brought back memories of his late father, Eric Philip Cowell, for whom the baby was named. His father had died of a heart attack in 1999, and Simon often described him as his moral compass, the quiet influence behind his ambition. Cradling baby Eric for the first time filled Simon with emotion he didn't know he still possessed. It softened something in him. The sarcastic critic who once prided himself on detachment found himself overwhelmed by joy and fear in equal measure. He admitted that becoming a father made him rethink everything, from his work schedule to his health to the meaning of success. A new man emerges. Before Eric's birth, Simon was known for marathon workdays, late-night cigarettes, and relentless ambition. His career consumed every waking hour, but the arrival of his son forced him to slow down. He began cutting back on work, quitting smoking, and prioritizing family. The man who once said he'd never change found himself reading bedtime stories, watching cartoons, and delighting in the smallest details of fatherhood. Simon later confessed that Eric gave him a sense of purpose no amount of fame could match. "You look at your child and realize the world isn't just about you anymore," he said. "It's about what kind of person you want them to see." For someone who had built a career on control, fatherhood became the great surrender, the moment he finally let love take precedence over ego. Healing old wounds. Behind Simon's success lay deep personal loss. His mother, Julie Brett, had been the rock of his life. When she passed away in 2015, Simon was devastated. She had been his confidant and emotional anchor after his father's death, the one person who always believed in him without judgment. Losing her plunged him into a darkness he rarely spoke about publicly. In interviews, he later described that period as one of quiet desperation. He buried his grief beneath work, spending sleepless nights producing shows and scouting talent. Outwardly, he remained the confident mogul. Inwardly, he felt hollow. "I was existing, not living," he admitted. "I was running from sadness and pretending it didn't exist." It was little Eric who began to change that. His laughter, curiosity, and innocence became daily reminders of hope. Reading to him at night or listening to him giggle brought moments of peace that Simon hadn't felt since his parents were alive. He often said that Eric saved his life, not in a dramatic sense, but by giving him a reason to look forward again. Learning to live again. Grief can consume anyone, even those who appear invincible. Simon's way of coping had always been through work, signing artists, producing hits, chasing the next big thing. But fatherhood forced him to reevaluate that pattern. He realized that endless ambition wasn't healing him, it was keeping him from life. He began focusing on balance. He started therapy, spent more time outdoors, and reconnected with old friends. For someone who once joked that empathy was overrated, he began showing it in ways that surprised even his colleagues. "Fatherhood taught me patience," he said in one interview. "It also taught me forgiveness, mostly of myself." The accident that nearly ended everything. Then, in 2020, life tested him again. While riding an electric bike at his home in Malibu, Simon lost control and crashed, breaking his back in multiple places. The injury was so severe that doctors feared paralysis. He underwent 6 hours of surgery and months of grueling rehabilitation. The accident forced him to confront mortality in a way he never had before. "One minute you're fine, the next you can't move," he said later. "It makes you realize how fragile everything is." For a man who had built an empire on control and certainty, losing that control over his body, over his future, was terrifying. During his recovery, Lauren became his constant support, nursing him through pain and frustration. Their son, Eric, then only 6 years old, visited him daily, drawing pictures and telling stories to cheer him up. Those moments, Simon said, gave him the strength to push through the agony of physical therapy. Redefining success. Lying in a hospital bed, Simon began to see life differently. He realized that the wealth and recognition he had once chased didn't matter nearly as much as the people waiting for him at home. "All I could think about was Lauren and Eric," he later recalled. "I just wanted to see them again." The accident became a wake-up call. He began eating healthier, exercising, and slowing down. He started taking real vacations, something he hadn't done in years. Professionally, he continued mentoring talent, but his tone softened. Even his on-screen persona changed, still honest, but warmer, more reflective. Audiences noticed. The man once feared for his bluntness had become a father figure not only to his son, but also to the young artists he guided. Heartbreak strikes again. Just as life began to settle, tragedy found its way back. In late 2024, Simon received news that shook him to his core. Liam Payne, one of the singers from One Direction, the boy band Simon had formed on the X Factor in 2010, had died in a fall in Buenos Aires. Liam had been only in his early 30s. The loss hit Simon like a tidal wave. He had been a mentor and friend to the group, watching them rise from nervous contestants to global superstars. Over the years, he remained close with each of them, proud of what they'd achieved. Liam's death brought back memories of all the loss Simon had already endured. His parents, his health scares, and the fragility of life he thought he'd finally learned to accept. In a statement, Simon described Liam as a kind, talented, and remarkable young man who brought light to everyone around him. It was one of the few times the public saw him visibly shaken. Friends said he spent days in quiet reflection, holding Lauren and Eric close, speaking often about how unpredictable life can be. A father's perspective. Through every twist, scandal, heartbreak, accident, and loss, fatherhood remained Simon's anchor. Eric had grown into a bright, curious boy, and their bond only deepened. Simon often shared light-hearted moments on social media, Lego building sessions, dog walks, and silly jokes. But beneath the humor was gratitude. "He reminds me what matters," Simon said simply. Eric also gave Simon perspective on fame. He wanted his son to see the world beyond the cameras, to understand kindness and humility. "I tell him that success means nothing if you're not a good person," Simon explained. It's a lesson forged from experience, because Simon knows how easily the spotlight can distort what truly counts. Love that endures. Despite the rocky start to their relationship, Simon and Lauren have built a stable, enduring partnership. She stood by him through scandal, grief, and recovery, and he credits her with grounding him. "She's my rock," he said often. "Without her, I wouldn't be who I am now." Their life together is far more private than it once was. They divide their time between London and Malibu, preferring quiet routines over constant publicity. Family walks, shared meals, and evenings at home have replaced red carpet appearances. For a man who once thrived on attention, Simon now finds peace in simplicity. Lessons from a life rewritten. Looking back, Simon Cowell's story isn't just about a celebrity overcoming scandal or surviving accidents. It's about a man learning what it means to be human. He's experienced betrayal, love, success, and heartbreak, often all at once. Through it all, he's come to value connection over control, presence over perfection. He once said that the greatest gift Eric gave him wasn't just fatherhood, but perspective. "I learned that when you're loved unconditionally," he reflected, "you stop needing the world's approval." Conclusion: finding light after the storm. Today, Simon Cowell is no longer the unyielding critic audiences first met decades ago. He's a father, a partner, and a man who's lived enough highs and lows to know what really matters. His journey from ruthless producer to devoted dad reminds us that even those who seem the most unshakable can be transformed by love and loss. He has endured scandal, mourned his parents, faced his own mortality, and grieved those he mentored. Yet each experience has brought him closer to the simple truth he once overlooked: that success is fleeting, but family and compassion endure. For Simon Cowell, the story is no longer about ratings or records. It's about resilience, redemption, and the small, everyday joys that make life worth living. Through it all, he's learned that even the harshest critic can find peace when love finally takes center stage.